My name is Iris Morales.
My name is Ceresia J. Fennell.
My name is Lucy Yu.
I'm Raquel Willis.
My name is Amy Michael.
I'm Brittany Barker.
So my name is Monica Carter.
My name is Casey Meehan.
I am the founder and CEO of The Bronx is Reading and also the author and editor of Wild Tongues Can't Be Tamed.
I own You and Me Books. It's the first female Asian American bookstore in New York City.
I'm a writer and activist.
I'm the director of customer experience at Brooklyn Public Library.
I work for Lambda Literary, which is the largest nationwide organization that uplifts and advocates for LGBTQ writers and readers.
And I'm an activist, educator, and author.
I think people are afraid of books because it allows them to see so many different perspectives that they no longer have control of. And I think a lot of people are afraid of losing control out of their own perspective, out of their own mindset, but that's what makes everything more important about connecting through books.
Banned books hurt my soul because I see books as portals to possibility.
I am personally against the banning of books. I believe that knowledge should be accessible and that people should have the right to choose the information that they would like to have access to.
And my relationship to banned books is I'm a reader, I'm a writer, and I'm a literary activist doing work in one of the low status communities in the Boogie Down Bronx. So book bans really impact the work that I'm doing with young people.
And the book bans in Florida are a reflection of what is happening in the rest of the country. For example, currently there are about 18 states that also have different variations of book bans, gag orders. It means that we have to unite against censorship, that we have to build a movement against censorship because it's not an issue that's just in Florida.
It's scary, I think, for all of us and what that means in terms of what's accessible and what may or may not be restricted in our own communities and in our own schools and public libraries. So without, being an alarmist, mostly trying to be a realist here, it is scary. I think we're in a place where the more we all push back against that messaging that books can be harmful and just reemphasize what resources books are for everyone, the better we'll be.
I think it's impacting everyone because it is removing access and it's removing books from libraries. And even though it seems like it's a big movement, it actually starts small. And so with a concerted effort to criminalize people that defend the right to read, and including librarians and educators, and also trying to legalize one perspective, we're not seeing the books that we need to see. And the students aren't seeing themselves reflected in these books. And we need to counteract their vigorous social media campaign with the same, which is making noise, which is being heard, which is making sure that we're accounted for and that we're standing up for those who can't do that themselves.
So what I am trying to do, I guess, on behalf of myself is what I would like and expect as a library user is to be able to get a library card without too much of a hassle. It should be faster than signing up for a social media account as far as I'm concerned. Get a library card should take less than 5 minutes. And there's a variety of reasons why you might not have what you need to get a library card, and libraries should think of creative ways to work around that and create different channels for people to access the library depending on whether they meet all the criteria to get that card. So I've just been working really hard, sort of using myself as an example, is how would I expect to be able to use my library, and what can I do in my position of power and privilege to make sure that our library modernizes itself, make sure that we prioritize access above all.
So you're tracking all these books. Who inspired your love for reading?
Ooh, who inspired my love for reading? I mean, my mama definitely.
My mother.
My mom.
My mother inspired my love for reading. When she was 8 years old, both her parents died and she was taken out of school. She never learned how to read well, but she committed to teach me all the words that she knew how to read and write before I entered the first grade. My mother inspired me to love reading.
I would say that my dad inspired my love of reading and books. He always had all types of books. He was very into psychology and spirituality. He always wanted to know the ins and outs of various religions, and so he was always reading something different before he went to bed each night. And so it was just always interesting to me that he had such a curiosity about different ways of being and living.
Well, it was something I could do pretty easily, so that helped, because I was like, wow, this reading is awesome. This is something that I can learn so much about, and my journey with reading has changed in so many ways. And I just remember at a young age being able to have access to those things and what that meant to me, and that it just continued. I never stopped reading. You know, it's always something I've turned to find an answer, to understand the world around me. And my parents, I guess, were the first people that helped me to understand the power of reading. And so hats off to them.
Wow. I was a foster kid, and actually my English teacher is the one who inspired me to really fall in love with books. She was the one who told me, I know you're going through something personal right now, but I think that this book is going to cheer you up. And I immediately fell in love with all of these weird, creepy books. So yes, I was a horror fanatic growing up. Goosebumps, Roald Dahl, you name it, I was into all of that stuff. And so that kind of made me fall in love with books. But I have to say, people like James Baldwin really made me think about literature and essays, and how to be a critic and how to give critique, but also how to sit with that. Also how to find what I can do in my power to shake up what's happening in my community, localized, but also what my voice can do, what my voice can be, and how I can stir up change.
What's your favorite banned book?
I would say my favorite banned book, probably anything by Toni Morrison, of course. The Bluest Eye was very foundational for me.
My favorite banned book, there's so many, so I can't really say my favorite, but I will say that the one that I first remembering impacting me was Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye.
I'm not sure if The Bluest Eye is my favorite banned book, but it's the first book that comes to mind.
The impact of that book sits with me to this day. I think about it often. It changed me. It just really changed me.
Yeah, I mean, Toni Morrison talks a lot about airing our dirty laundry, but without sugarcoating.
One of my favorite banned books is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It's one of the most incredible coming-of-age stories through trials and tribulations of a true story of someone who has overcome so much, but done it in a way that's so beautiful and meaningful.
The Sketches of Puerto Ricans in New York by Jesus Colon. Many of the books that I read had helped form my ideas and my sense of representation in the world, of being part of the world, were books by Latino and African American authors.
So I'm in the middle of reading Flamer, which is incredible. I just read Genderqueer. But the book that I always come back to is All Boys Aren't Blue.
All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson.
I just appreciate their perspective as a Black non-binary writer, talking about family and talking about what it's like to grow up as a young, queer, gender non-conforming person. Because so often we think about Black queer folks as just these kind of random satellites floating, not connected to any kind of family or community in a deep way. And I appreciate their contributions to the literary world.
The voice of the young people who are impacted by these bans and challenges is the most powerful voice of all. They don't often realize that they can raise their voice. They don't often realize how they can do that. They don't often realize what they can say. So the most important thing I think grown-ups can do, people who are operating as advocates and other people who are really disturbed by what's going on, is find ways to help young people.
The freedom to read, to me, is something that I hold really, really dear. I come from a family where I am one of the first high school graduates. I'm one of the first people in my family to have a master's degree. So reading is super important. Education is super important. These are things that people in my family didn't get to experience. I do come from a family of storytellers. Oral stories are also equally important. Audiobooks are equally important, but the power of the written word is something that not every single community has been able to have access to.
We must fight this censorship and this ban on reading, because behind the book ban are ideas that are very detrimental to poor, working people, people of color, gay people. We must support those that are at the front lines, and we ourselves must commit to engage in whatever way we can, supporting others and also taking action ourselves.